Hello, hello, welcome back. Let me pull up my notes over here. Welcome back, all of you. It's so good to be here with you all. Happy Monday. Letting you guys connect to the sound, land back here in this container. Welcome, yo. Welcome, welcome. You guys, I'm really excited about this afternoon's Divine Mirror session. I've been talking about it for weeks now about who we've got this amazing man, Steve Nobel, who is the author of, let me go ahead and pin you really quick. Let me bring you up. And look, you guys, Steve and I got the memo on the fun colored printed shirts today. So we're we're rocking our fun star-seeded rainbow colors. For many of you, this man does not need an introduction. So many of you found your way via Steve and his body of work, and it has impacted you probably as much as it has impacted and informed my own spiritual awakening and journey. And so, for those of you who do not know Steve, allow me to introduce you. He is the author of 6 nonfiction books. The 2 most recent are The Spiritual Entrepreneur and Joy at Work. He is the director for a nonprofit spiritual organization called The Alternatives, based in St. James Church in Piccadilly, London. And for 13 years, leaving on the Winter Solstice in 2012. Okay. And subsequently, he began his own healing and awakening work. He has created a healing system called Soul Matrix Healing for Starseeds. He has created a vast library of free resources, including meditations and transmissions to support starseeds like all of you. And all of this is freely available on his website, on his YouTube channel, on his Insight Timer. These are meditations, they are transmissions, and they are played all over the world. Over 187,000 subscribers. And he also regularly runs events in the UK and overseas. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, Lacey. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on whatever it is in America. It must be your afternoon, I guess.
It is. It's 4 o'clock in the central area. So
Ah, it's my 9 o'clock here, but it's still early. It's fine. We can have fun together.
beautiful. Is that wine?
This is actually
See?
water with it had some green tea in there, and it's just got a bit of green. I was rushing, so I put water with a tiny bit of green tea left, so it's okay. It's a spring water with green tea.
Beautiful. I would be
Yeah, I don't
tickled if
drink
it
wine. I
wasn't.
can't take it anymore.
No, yeah. I think that's is that was that something that your body just one day said and that's enough?
Yeah, I think from an early age, I went off alcohol. No, I could never really drink alcohol anyway. But as a teenager, you try, don't you? And I thought, well, all these other people are drinking it. Why can't I? But in my probably when I was about 18, I gave up drinking coffee. I quite liked filter coffee. I gave it up. Alcohol. I became vegetarian for many years, macrobiotic and vegetarian. And yeah, I can't drink. I think I had a glass of prosecco about a year and a half ago, and that was just like Liz was saying to me. Liz, who I work with, she was saying, "You always say you're going to stop because you always feel bad afterwards. I only drink one every 6 weeks. It's hardly a alcoholic, really."
Right.
So yeah,
Well, I love though that your body, whether it was your body informing the decisions or you making a conscious choice, that you were able to choose to not partake in things that were no longer serving your highest alignment.
yeah. I think my mind still said, "Oh, I like filter coffee," but my body was going, "No, no, no, no." And even if something's cooked in a very low vibration, my body would go, "No, no."
Mhm.
Off it goes. So, which I bless my body. Thank you, body, for doing that.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my curiosity of your own personal journey. Like many here, perhaps we get to receive of you in these meditations and we feel this strong connection. At least I do. And again, you've informed so much of my work. Yet I realized earlier when I was sitting and meditating that I don't know a lot about you or your journey. And I and
Ah.
I and I started to just see this magical little star-seated boy that was just out there, looking at the colors. And so, but I'm curious, have you always been able to see through the lens of magic? And have you always been this deeply and profoundly connected?
My parents would say I've always been weird, I would think, you know. They tried to, well, they tolerated it for a number of years. As a kid, you can tolerate, kids' interests, they'll grow out of it. I was into all kinds of comics. Now we have graphic comics, but those days there was a great variety of comics, sci-fi, fantasy, superhero, and I loved them all. I connected them all. I loved all of it. My imagination was really sparked. Doctor Who came along when I was about six, the first episode, and I was like, this is incredible. And I watched the very first episode, I think 1963 it was. I was born in the late 50s. And so I was an avid fan for years. And then Star Trek when I was about 13, actually Bewitched when I was about 10, Star Trek at 13, 14, and on it went, and I think by the time I got to 15, I was getting increasingly too weird for my parents, macrobiotic, into yoga when it wasn't fashionable, into martial arts when it wasn't fashionable, starting exploring a little bit of Buddhism. And then I started exploring what would be then called the occult, just like reading books, like what's out there. I started visiting spiritual organizations at the age of 15. I was quite young, really, and I was writing to authors, no emails in those days. There was a guy called Lobsang Rampa who was very popular in the 70s. I wrote to him. He did reply, actually. And then at the age of, I think, 16, 17, I decided that, well, you know what, I'm going to try normal. This is a bit hard going. So I stopped a lot of that. I went to work in the City of London. I got married at 21, had two children by the age of 25. So I became embedded in normal. And although my wife always said, ex-wife now, of course, she said she always knew that I was weird. And by the early 90s, the call was so strong, I had to go back again. And I had this awakening in the early 1991, my awakening. And I had the experience of synchronicity for 6 months. It was just like, wow, I didn't have the words for it or anything to describe synchronicity. It was just things happening, books, teachers, CDs. And it was just a great journey. And I always suspected the universe was magical, but I kind of gave up on the idea. But around the age of 33, when I had this experience, I realized actually the universe is magical. And this eventually led to the breakdown of my marriage because my now ex-wife, who we were very friendly with, couldn't tolerate she used to say to me, "What cult are you in now, Steve?" She used to say that to me. Anyway, so that my journey started. I got involved with some great spiritual teachers, great healers. I joined an organization called Alternatives, became a director for 13 years. So I had tea and met a lot of these very big rising stars, like uh, Caroline Myss, Julia Cameron, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, before he was really known in this country
Mhm.
very well. And then also, what's Abraham Hicks, before
Mhm.
I knew they were known in the States, but they weren't known here. So we put them on here. So I got to have tea with a lot of these people and Neil Donald Walsh. It's very nice to have tea with them because you can see they're there on stage, but what are they like behind the stage? Are they nice? Oh,
Mhm.
Byron Katie. I really like Byron Katie. Lovely person. And yeah, so I had that for 13 years. And then I got this soul calling, you could say, to leave. But I resisted it, thinking, why should I leave? Because all my family's here. I love this place. But I really knew I was being called away. And I was kind of resisting it. And eventually the resistance threw me into a dark night of the soul for 6 years, really dark and really difficult, but
Mhm.
necessary training because I didn't believe in dark forces until that time. And then I started experiencing them directly and hearing them speaking to me. And I was like, oh, they are really there. Uh, I sought a lot of help. Eventually, two people did help me come out. And then in 2016, I started this business. And yeah, and so as far as my kids are concerned, dad has got even weirder. But my daughter said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "I always make her famous on these things because I always say because she says to me, 'What's a starseed, Dad?' and 'What's an ascension guide, Dad?' And I cannot answer her because it's impossible to answer her. She would not, even if I gave her a detailed description, she would not understand it. So of
Mm,
course, it depends on the person hearing you whether they're going to
mhm,
accept
mhm.
it. None of my family will hear it. I've got four granddaughters now. They love crystals, but I think that's about as far as they go at the moment. We'll see what happens with them if they if they following granddad in any way or interested in me. So this is where I'm at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm living in a beautiful seaside town. I overlook the sea, a beautiful view of the sea. Every morning I see the sunrise, and I'm here in this very nice apartment. And I've only been here 3 months. I moved from Brighton, which is a very alternative place, to here, and it's been super productive. As soon as I got here, I've been download after download,
Mm.
and I'm constantly kept busy.
You that is something that I was thinking about and reflecting upon too, is I'm just amazed at your ability to produce. You just allow yourself to create and to be a soul of service, and the you're constantly in this creative production sharing space. And
Yeah,
I was curious, I was like, where? I mean, I know, simultaneously knowing the answer, but I'm like, where does all of this energy come from?
I know. Um, Liz, who I've worked with for several years now, she says I can't keep up with you. She's in human design. She's a projector. I don't know if you know about that.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a generator, and so I am a
Okay.
constant machine of.
Okay.
I'm a generator 4/6, which is a um, what is it? Opportunist role model. And so opportunity is networking, connecting. I've
Mm-hmm.
alternatives open my mind to a lot of vast universe of ideas and models. And here I am in this stage of my life, more the role model stage, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And that training has expanded my mind into all of these different places and interests. So when they started coming, these transmissions, the first one was in Greece, actually. I was in Greece. Um, and I was sitting in a tiny little chapel right by the sea, one of those tiny places where you get about six people. And I had this download, and it was like a pressure on my head. And I was like, what is that? It took me a week to unpack it.
Mm.
And over the years, I've got much quicker because sometimes they come in an instant. It's like 5 seconds and whoa. And I have to sit and go, what let's just unpack all of that, please. And some of them are slower, some of them. So, for example, the other day, one came very quickly called quantum good fortune transmission. And it was like, oh, okay. And I've been using it on myself, and I really like this one. And then there's another one in the works, which has been in the works for a few years. That one came really quickly. There's another one I've been sitting for about 2 years with, and it's being completed almost now. It's called Indigenous Tribal Healing Transmission,
Mm.
healing the pain of or transmuting the pain of the past, because so many star seeds have had lifetimes in indigenous cultures. So it's not like it's just like those people who are living there now.
Mhm.
We have it, and we are carrying a lot of that programming, and also our ancestral lines. So my ancestral lines, British Empire and all of that. In my ancestral lines, there's programming from the other side. Going across fighting wars and all of this kind of thing. So there's a clearing of ancestral lines, other lifetime programming. And the more I went into it, the deeper I realized it goes because, it's such a painful time of the colonial expansion and what happened to indigenous tribal peoples in different ways. It was different for different places. So I've done one hopefully to cover as much. Originally, I was going to do it just for the Native American Indian because that
Mhm.
was the one I was called for. But then I realized, no, I can't do that. It's got to be more general. So it covers more bases. So that will come out in the next few weeks, hopefully. Yeah, I think it's ready to be recorded now. So
And so I'm just amazed at your process then. So what I heard you say was that this particular transmission that's getting ready, you've been unpacking and this particular divine assignment essentially to like record this for 2 years now. So you
yeah.
receive and you refine and you just allow yourself to be guided until it's ready to be recorded.
Yeah, I think that one, there was also a divine timing. I don't quite know why I had to wait so long, but it wasn't ready. It was like, no, I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ready to go. And then I got the kind of impulse, now it's ready. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't know what difference it is about now.
Yeah.
But that one particularly does seem an important one because of, I mean, there are many that are important. There's one that
Right.
I have to do around slavery as well, because it's almost like some of them go into the darker places and try and liberate the density there
Mm-hmm.
and clear it and release it, forgive it and
Mm-hmm.
heal it. And some of them go to the lighter places, which
Mm-hmm.
are, the miracle one, quantum good fortune, the miracle transmission, the ones which we're inviting, just looking at the bright light, beautiful higher dimensions. But where we're at, we have to have a foot in. There's the higher dimensions and all the light, and there's where we are now, which is quite a volatile world, and there's where we've been, which is a lot of density, which
Mm-hmm.
was some of us are still carrying, really.
So yeah, we're unpacking the multidimensional trauma at every level in which we're processing it at a collective, this
Yeah,
giant collective alchemy.
yeah. And we're doing the work, so our children and grandchildren will have an easier time. It's
Mm-hmm.
easier for I came in the late 50s when there was dense England, post-war England. My parents were products of the Blitz. They were evacuated and they experienced rationing. And the rationing in England went on till the mid 50s. So it only stopped 2 years before I was born. So, my parents still carried all of that stuff. So we
Mm-hmm.
are clearing and the 60s was kind of light, a lot of stars. For me, the 60s revolution was starseeds having their first little party. Hey, let's put flowers and guns and let's do that. It kind of was a beautiful time. And then that kind of went. And then the 70s and 80s, there are all these waves of different things. And now, since the 2012 trigger point, which was a choice trigger point, I think, there's more star seeds on the ground now than when I was born. And so it's a real collective energy of star seeds shifting the planet. And even though I would say probably on the planet there's less than 5% star seeds at the moment, that maybe there's a little bit more. It'll be about that anyway. But the proportion of star seeds to people who've been here for a long time, you consider Earth seeds or whatever you want to call them,
Mm-hmm.
is increasing. So as the number of star seeds with a higher consciousness increase on the planet, so everything has to shift. Politically,
Mm-hmm.
America's going through a lot of volatility. As more light comes on the planet, more things are shaken up. And, you're going through a very weird time at the moment, recently, with your elections.
Yep.
And, weird time on the planet. And you can expect volatility to precede shift. There's always chaos
Mm-hmm.
before a big
Mm-hmm.
transformation. So Donald, whatever you think of him, the disruptor, Donald the disruptor is gonna, precede some kind of shift. I don't personally believe he's the next Jesus Christ. I have to say that. I've got friends who do believe that, and
Oh yeah.
I'm still amazed that they believe that. But he is doing a valuable job. I think he's doing a valuable job of shaking things up, even if you think that, I mean, when I see what he's doing, I do shake my head going, oh my God, what is he up to now? But
Mm-hmm.
it's a job that needs to be done because a lot of old systems are very rigid and need to be shaken. And he's, ain't fools go in when angels fear to dread is my feeling about him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There we are. I
I,
hope I haven't offended anyone.
And honestly, and I completely agree with you. The kind of coming from a zooming out in lens and coming from a place of non-attachment and understanding the power of chaos, the power of challenges. When our country chose to elect him into office, I said, "Oh, okay, we're ready for more shadow work." That's what I perceived it as. I was like, "Oh, okay, we're ready for more shadow work. We are
Yeah.
not here. We could do this gently and titrate and spread it out over the next 5 years, or we could have a really dense, challenging 2 years." And I see what we've chosen as a collective.
Yeah.
So,
Well, America's got a lot of light workers there, a lot of star seeds, a lot of spiritual teachers in America, probably more in America than anywhere else.
hmm,
But the culture you are in is got a lot of density. If you think of the history of 200 years, you've had the, War of Independence, you've had slave trade, you've had genocide, you've had, and the Second World War, of course, was very intense for America as well.
mhm,
So you've gone through a lot in 200 years. England, we've been fighting here for 1,000, you know, 15, 1,600 years, 2,000 years in England it's been going on. So
mhm,
it's kind of spread out. We're kind of more at peace with our history,
mhm,
whereas you guys have got a lot of intensity. And a friend of mine, an American friend, he said to me, he was from New York. He said to me, look, the American Civil War is not over. if you go in certain places, the vibration of it's still there. It's not healed.
Mhm.
And there are people, I'm sure, in America and in Europe doing a lot of work with battlefields and a lot of
Mhm.
these issues. But we have to shine a light in these dark places. That's the time, really, I think.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's what I love that you're speaking into is truly what we're here to do in embracing the shadow, embracing the chaos, embracing what we perceive to be dark. What you mentioning the you didn't even weren't even aware that there were these negative energized entities that out there until they started communicating with you and you could see them and perceive them. And what I also love what you had shared, and I think what we're being asked really right now is to really sharpen our discernment, really sharpen our discernment, because you had mentioned some of your friends that may believe that Trump could potentially be the Messiah, or even there's a lot of the New Age spirituality that I think is through the lens of distortion, the toxic positivity, the emotional bypassing. I am God, and like the service to self version of God instead of the service to all. So yeah, I feel that there's an invitation for us all to really anchor into our heart so that we can perceive not from our ears, but through this particular lens.
Yeah, discernment is very important in all ways because there's so much deception going on. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the deception is increasing with technology. There's an ability to deceive now, which is
Mm-hmm.
greater than ever, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But even at a very personal level, we have to be very discerning around the people we connect with, the relationships we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Star seeds, being very empathic, can be prone to narcissists, unfortunately. There's that draw, that magnetic draw that I've had so many friends, and myself also, I've had a few uh, dalliances with them because they're, it's the opposite end. There's this so empathic, heart-giving, and then you've got the narcissist who looks charming, sounds good, but when they come in, they'll give you a really interesting ride. Some of them are
Mm-hmm.
really rough ride. But if you ever watch those old, very old vampire films, when I was young, I used to watch a few of those. They said, when the vampire knocks on the door, don't let them in. If you let them in, you have a lot of trouble. And that's true of a lot of things. I've come across a few people who have let in people who are really, really dark in terms of black magic and stuff, and they're having a hell of a job getting them out, even if they're not in their house anymore. But you're getting their energy out is quite something. We have to be discerning who we let into our reality, and dark forces are real. A lot of people in the light don't want to look at it. But I think for me, it's part of my training to have that really dreadful, dark experience for 6 years. I didn't think I would survive it,
Mm-hmm.
really. It was so overwhelmingly difficult and challenging. Not only externally, what's going on in my outer world, but inwardly, it's almost like daily psychic interference or psychic attacks for about 18 months daily. It was really intense. And I didn't feel I had sufficient defense against it. I had to learn. So this is why I've got on my
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, there's a playlist Psychic Protection. So psychic protection is important, and it's important because not from fear. It's important not to do any kind of protection out of fear because fear amplifies the problem. But it's almost like if you're gonna have a shower, we don't go into the shower out of a terrible fear of microbes because some people might scrubbing and oh my God, the microbes are going to get me because that actually amplifies the problem. We shouldn't be afraid of dark forces. They are there, but don't be afraid of them. Most star seeds maybe they won't encounter them. You know what those forces tend to go for. People like me and possibly you, Lacey. I don't know if you've had any interference with them.
Mm-hmm.
People, the public image, they kind of go, hey, let's mess with these people. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you've got a particular mission that they'll want to interfere with, particular gifts that they don't want to be activated, then they'll target you. But don't be afraid of them because they can be batted away. There's lots of techniques. There's lots of helpful forces. In all of my transmissions, I call on six archangels, which I know very well now. The horizontal plane, which is the where we're on, you have Raphael, who I love dearly, the healer magician. We have Michael, who's very protective. And you can call on, if you have any problems with anyone, you can call Michael or angels working with Michael to stand between you and that person or you in that situation. It's very healing. Gabriel, who's the emotional dream time, and Uriel, who's perhaps the most mysterious of the lot and very powerful one. He's the one that's taken me a while to really get a feel into, and I don't think I've got a complete feel of him. Metatron and Sandalphon of the vertical plane. These six archangels hold all the spaces that I work with, and because to open a space, it has to be protected, I
Mhm.
feel. So every workshop, every webinar, anything I do, all clients I call in this space, and then you have to release the space, thank them and release them. It's the magical etiquette. I did a lot of shamanic training and training in Wicca, and I trained in ritual, and I realized the importance of space and holding it so
Mhm.
nothing can come in, leak in, and nothing can leak out. This has been going on for our ancestors have been working this way for thousands of years. But what I did was I connected with the archangels, which I think a lot of people I used to connect with would find this heresy. They're like, no, no, you can't
Mhm.
do that. We should be calling whoever else. But when I left that world, the archangels for me came very strongly. And I'd really turned my back on Christianity for a while. I explored paganism. But when I came back to this work, the Christian message came very strongly. Now, I think the message of Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, all of that core is a very powerful message that the mission of Jesus the Christ is very powerful. But unfortunately, the church and the churches lots of well-meaning people there, but they're not conveying the message because there's been so much interference, mistranslation, and all kinds of stuff, ego,
Mhm.
power, politics. And so unfortunately, the churches are mostly they've got so much density in them, but it's the message we go to. And if you can find the original Aramaic translations of some of these things, like the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, is the most beautiful thing you could hear. Go on Google, Aramaic translation of Lord's Prayer. It's amazing. It's like listening to Wayne Dyer or a New Age teacher speaking about something. And this is the way he spoke. There's no word in Aramaic for hell. There's no
Mhm.
word in Aramaic for sin. And yet the church was built on these principles. So someone made that up. So this is why I don't trust the church. I worked in a church for many years in the spiritual organization, and I had a load of problems with the people in the church. I'm like, I used to joke, if only we could take over the church and not have to deal with them. It was a very interesting partnership between a New Age organization and a church, a very prominent Anglican church near Buckingham Palace. It was a very important. But Christopher Wren built it, and apparently it was his favorite one. So we were able to get in there and do. We used to present lots of talks in there and stuff. So yeah, that was. I'm so glad I'm out of the church vibe now. I'm just free agent. I can do whatever I like, and nobody can. People can say I'm weird, but it doesn't matter. I can still do it. They used to call us the heretics in the basement, actually, which I thought was quite funny.
I also love that you keep using the word weird because
Mm,
the etymology of weird is WYRD, which is a Germanic word that means to wield your own destiny.
yeah,
So, you guys, I think
yeah,
we're reclaiming this word weird.
yeah. Weird. In England, they had it as the Anglo-Saxon. Were here for several hundred years, I think. And they're shamanic. They call it the way of weird. That was their path. Um, and I think weird, unique, authentically ourselves. And
Mhm.
for a 3D person, and the world is 3D mostly. For a 3D person, they would look at anything I would do and think that is completely crazy or weird. And I've had members of my family come up to me and going, "Do you believe in all of the stuff you say?" They must be checking me out. And I've got one really 3D member of my family who manages a load of hospitals, and he's very atheist and scientific. I managed to persuade him that my posts were actually of benefit to humanity. And he went away actually saying, I do all these daily posts. And he was actually saying, no, I can get what you're saying. And I'll read them in a new light now. This atheist
Mm.
scientist. So that was nice, actually. Yeah.
I feel like there's so much about your story that everyone here can relate to. And the reason we call these divine mirror sessions is because the idea is that we want to be able to see ourselves in you. And I remember the first time I attended an event like this so many years ago, and I was new in my journey, and I was just like, wow, them too. Okay. And I'm wondering if, and I'm sure there's people, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds watching the replays, over 1,700 people that have registered for the event. I can guarantee you you talked about the role model. Yes, you have been that for me and so many people here, I'm sure. And for them to get to hear your story and get to hear, oh, Steve also has a family where nobody gets him. And he
Yeah.
even birthed children that
Oh
still
yeah.
don't fully understand what it is that he's talking about. Like, you just kind of assume, like, oh, star-seeded being, he's going to have star-seeded children that are going to just be as weird as each and every one of us here. So I just feel like
Yeah.
there's so much of your story that I'm just so tickled that we can relate to.
I think, I like sharing stories, and I think it's important to share stories because it
Mhm.
makes the whole process more human rather than abstract. And so if we share stories, it grounds it. So my challenges have been partly with the family, separating from a family, separating from having two young children when I had 9 and 13. They're now in their 40s. And it was a very painful time of separation and negotiating all that. And there are people here, I'm sure, that are negotiating challenges with family, maybe not divorcing, but there might be family members that don't agree with their beliefs. In the early days, I've got a family member who's a born again Christian, and I used to argue with her and argue with her. And now I just love her. Now I think, I'm over arguing with you. I'm just going to love you. And then she responds. We don't argue about it. She doesn't ask me. She's fine. And Liz, who I'm, partnered with, she has got some Christian friends. We met up with them for lunch one day, and they were a bit wary about me. And I started talking to them about the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which I'd read. The Christians actually don't research. They just go to church and follow the rote. But
Mhm.
she was looking at me with like as if there's a Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and I said, yes, there is. It's not complete, but it was found and it's genuine and it's really worth reading. If anybody here hasn't read it, go on Google or Amazon and just put probably Google would do it. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. It was discovered, I think, in a bazaar in Egypt in the early 1900s, but it's I think it's not maybe half of it's missing or a third of it's missing, but still revealing, very
Mhm.
interesting. So I do think these stories, my stories about my challenges and my family, my grandchildren, make it. Hey, I'm not quite trying to sit on some pedestal, trying to make out, I'm some enlightened being that just, showers blessings everywhere. I'm The thing is that I've gone through the struggle of the path. I'm climbing the path with you all. I don't know if I'm a few steps ahead. I only need to be a few steps ahead to help those behind. And there are people a few steps ahead of me that are helping me. I think that's the way it is. We're all on the journey wherever we are. And even those stuck in this 3D world are on their journey, and they eventually, at some point, will liberate themselves, if not in this lifetime. For many, maybe not this lifetime, but at some point, they are souls on their journey, and they'll come back and have other places to go to. There's an interesting story in the Bible, or a parable in the Bible. Jesus said it, and when I read it, I was into Christianity when I was very young. In my father's mansion, there are many rooms. And I thought, who cares? When I read that, I thought, why does it matter if there's many rooms in the mansion? But now I realize it's kind of metaphor about there are many planes of existence in the universe. I mean, you can't, if he was to sit there say there are many planes of existence in the universe, they'll be looking, scratching their heads going, what? But if you say there are many rooms in my father's mansion, they'll be, oh, yeah, yeah. I guess that makes some sort of sense. It makes more sense now. A lot of these things, the story, the parables of abundance about the birds in the field, it all makes much more sense. At the time, I'm like, what's he talking about? There are taxes and their rent to pay. I'm not a bird in the field or whatever the story was. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but I have an understanding of it now because of that principle which is the we create our reality personally and collectively. Now, that was the thing that I heard, and I thought I've got to understand this because this is important. So, in the whole path, understanding the dynamics of that is super important because we create reality from the inside out. And once we can do it in our personal reality, we start doing it with others. So I've spent years mantra singing, rituals, vision boarding. I've done all of those things. And by and large, I've created the reality that I want to create. And so now my mission is how can I help others to co-create what they want,
Mhm.
actually. I don't really have many uh, um, dreams that I have to fulfill anymore. I've kind of gone through it all. I'm now like, what can I give to the world? How can I help you guys to fulfill your dreams? And dreams are the language of the soul, as far as I'm concerned. So that's
I
my job at
love
the
that.
moment, anyway. And that gives me
Dream,
great pleasure, actually.
dreams are the language of the soul. I've never heard that. That's really beautiful. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. The heartfelt dreams. If it's a heartfelt dream, not the ego fantasy, then the
Right.
soul is speaking, going, this is what we want you to do. And the soul speaks all the higher self speaks all the time. We had to leave our house in Brighton, a beautiful place, but rents were going up, and we thought, yeah, let's put it to the universe. Should we stay? Should we go? And the landlady said, yeah, stay. We'll just put it up a little bit. So we actually said to the universe, I've got a feeling that the universe wants us to move. Let's put it to the universe. So we went to Bali. We were there 3 weeks. We put it to the universe. When we came back, there was a letter on our doorstep saying the landlady's changed her mind. She wants the house back. We went, okay, fine. And then where do we go? We loved it here. I went for a massage. And before I went for the massage, I asked my higher self, show me where to go. I had a vision of this building really strongly. And I knew that it was coming up for rental, but I discounted it because Liz said to me, hey, this building's coming up. I said, no, 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 various reasons. I got back. I didn't say anything. And she said, oh, I've had a call from the estate agent. They really want to show us this building. I said, let's go. I've just had a vision. We're going to be there. And we are both here now. And it's
Mhm.
fabulous. It's a fabulous place for downloads. It's wonder. I'm up on the 10th floor. So I'm near Raphael in the heavens. So the angels are speaking to me, whispering every
Amazing.
every morning.
So you've
Yeah,
got some really exciting things that are going to be coming, being birthed soon. Then, if that's the case, right? You're just absorbing, 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 and then turning around and
every
sharing
day,
it.
every day. I've got to stretch my time, get up early. Sometimes I'm up at 6:30 going, okay, I'm going to get all this down. I'm going to start recording something. So sometimes my workday stretches quite a long time. I do get to rest and have fun in between that. It's important to have fun. We can't, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah, and fun, the play, the levity is what makes it all the more worthwhile.
Oh, we've got to have fun. Got to smell the roses on the way. Otherwise, yeah, we get burnt out. We're not here to sacrifice. Even if we are in service, sacrifice is not required.
Not anymore, not in this paradigm, not the
No,
one that
no.
we're creating and stepping into. There's some couple great questions that I would love to read to you if you feel. One of the questions is, how do you recommend navigating a desire for more visibility and also wanting to make sure that you have enough protections while coming from a place of love? So what I hear the question is, how do you navigate more visibility? And I really feel like this is probably hand in hand with another question I was going to ask. I feel that people are desiring to show up in service, and they have all this stuff inside of them that says, nope, nope, you can't do that. It's not safe. So how can you support, and what would you recommend to those that are ready to step up, step out?
Oh, yeah. It's the most one of the most common things I come across is fear of visibility. And fear of visibility there's three areas where that fear can come from. Conditioning in the family, you know, um, children should be seen and not heard, my father used to say over and over again. Children should be seen and not heard. Um, Unworthiness programming. Who am I to think I could possibly, all of that program. So there's family programming, there's ancestral programming around fear of visibility. Maybe some ancestor stood up, said something, and got his head chopped off. And so that energy can be in the ancestral lines. But one of the most common is probably other lifetime persecution.
Mhm.
It's very common for starseeds to have other lifetime persecution, being killed, imprisoned, executed, tortured, banished. If you've got any of that, and most of you probably got some of it. Then your conscious mind says, hey, I've got a good idea. I want to be visible on YouTube. I want to be blah, blah. And your unconscious mind goes, I remember the 20 lives when you were killed and you ain't doing it. And so there's a kind of battle that goes on, there's a kind of resistance that goes on. And we resist the calling. And it's normal to resist the calling. But eventually, what you need to do is make all of the resistance conscious. The more conscious the resistance, the less power it has. Fear, of course, is the most powerful emotion that keeps us from being visible. And fear, if I have a conversation with someone who's got past life programming of persecution, what I'll say to them is, well, what is the fear? And they'll go into it. It's fear of death. It's fear of, and I say, have a breath and just have a little, just send the message to that energy, show them your reality, your house, your garden, the country you're in. Donald Trump, for all his faults, is not interested in you, the shaman, you, the Reiki master. He doesn't care. And nor does anybody here. They don't care anymore. And the energy is kind of sometimes shocked. We carry energies that is locked in other lifetimes. It's not got any awareness of our life. And when we say it actually is safe to step out, and actually, I want you to help me, these energies, can you help me? I've been through that. I had tremendous fear when my first public performance, but public talk, tremendous fear, and it was like fear of being killed, humiliated, and the whole thing. And I had to really work on clearing it. So, and also my family programming as well. So, if you've got fear of visibility, it's a good thing to sit with it and go, I want to be visible on wherever. And then sit with the fear in the body. Where am I feeling this fear in the body? Is it in the gut? Is it in the solar plexus? Where? Tune into the fear and embrace the fear. How big is this fear? Is it a peanut, a walnut, an apple, a melon? Get a fix on it. When you get a fix on the size of it, is the energy still or moving? Moving will be vibrating or pulsing or expanding or contracting. So that's another fix on it. So you're starting to fix it as energy. There it is, maybe a pulsing apple-sized energy in your gut. What's the color of it? Get a color of it. It may have a kind of puke green or some gray or whatever. What is the main emotion? It may be fear, but there may be some other emotions in there. Whatever the fear is, just tune into the fear. Specifically, what am I afraid of? And tune in, and you might get some weird answers. It might be afraid of death, afraid of being killed, afraid of being tortured, afraid of being burnt alive at the stake or whatever it is. And then this is where it's coming from. And it's not real in this lifetime because none of you here are going to be burnt at the stake, hung, or beheaded. I'm pretty sure that in America that's not going to happen. If there is one or two countries where it's possible that it be less safe, we won't talk about those countries. But in England and in America, you are safe. So you can go on YouTube. And the biggest fear is probably around practically is what would my mother think? What would my boyfriend think?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares what they think? If it's your mission, do it. If they have a problem with it, they'll tell you, and then you can have a conversation with them. But get up there, do it. If you have the soul calling, you have to do it. There's an old saying in magical circles, where there is fear, there is power, personal power. What you are afraid of is where you have to go often. I had a terrible fear of spiders, phobic. When I did my shamanic training, what did I have to face? Oh, goodness me. I in my shamanic journeys over and over again, large spiders blocking me. And I went to the teacher of this particular course, and she said to me, in the next journey, go and ride on one of their backs. And I was like, no, 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 I'm phobic. Don't you understand? And she said, do it. So I called the nicest one I could find, a crystal translucent one. Okay, I can do that. All right. And I rode on its back, and then the phobia broke. And then all kinds of weird stuff happened after that, which I haven't got time to tell you. But I had to face that fear, and honestly, when I was a kid in the classroom, if there was a spider, I would be like, I would know, and I would be, it was that bad, actually that bad. So I had to face it. And other fears, fear of public speaking, I had to do it. And fear of, what would my family think? I had to face it. You just face them all. And ultimately you feel, actually, the fear itself is the problem, not the actual experience. When you do it, it's fine, usually. And for any of you doing public speaking, the thing to note is if anybody comes to hear you or switches on your YouTube or comes to a public talk, they're coming because they want you to be brilliant. Nobody comes to a talk to hear you thinking, I hope she trips up, or I hope he trips up, or I hope he's crap. Nobody does that. They want you so that that energy of desiring you to be brilliant, you can actually ride on. I can go on a lot more about this, but don't let fear of visibility stop you. It's the most common fear I come across, actually.
And
Oh, the
I
other one. What was the other one about? What's the other question? About protection. Well, it's always just basic protection. It's good to have some basic protection. You know, seal your energy field, ask for some clearing. I do a basic clearing process every day, often several times a day, because I'm having to release cordings, attachments, energy projections. You know, people like us, people project energy towards, and even though it might be lovely most of the time, not all of it is lovely. We can't. It's not that we should be absorbing energy projections, even the loveliest ones. I try and keep neutral from it, so I'm not. Otherwise, it'd be like, you know, and this is why a lot of celebrities go off their rocker, even if millions of people love them, because they can't handle the projection. They don't know. So it's important to be able to handle projection, even if it's positive. You need to release it from your field. Don't let it sway you. It's lovely that people love you, but that's not why you're here. You're here for a service.
beautiful,
That's my
fantastic.
opinion, anyway. That's
Yeah.
why I can keep going because I'm not. I read lovely comments and it's fabulous. And I hear, oh, good, it's people are being moved. And of course, I get one or two which are like, don't give up your day job. Jesus will save you. I'm like, hey, fabulous. All right. Love you too. So if we are moved by the praise, we'll be moved by the criticism.
Mm.
So don't be moved by praise or criticism. Feedback is the important thing. Be neutral with it, but watch it and listen to it. That's what I do. I read every comment on YouTube, every single one, because I want to know how it's affecting people.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Oh, so much goodness in what he just shared with you guys as it relates to getting, yeah. Paul's was like, yes, so good.
Go, go, go.
I mean, as it relates to just navigating your fears, right? What a perfect conversation for what we've been talking about. And then beyond that, I call it energy hygiene, what you mentioned, creating your sacred space, clearing your field consistently, dissolving cords of attachment, just being mindful of our psychic energy and the psychic field and its messiness.
Yeah.
And just, it feels good to anchor into sovereignty, right? And
And
that's,
fear won't leave. Fear will
mhm,
always be on the path.
mhm.
It just changes. You know, it's not that I'm suddenly fearless. The fears are more subtle and different. The bigger the step you take in your life, the more fear will be present. It's just a rule of thumb, really. If you're taking a massive step up, there'll be like doubt and oh, am I or can I do it? I had to make a big decision a year or so ago, and I was sat there. Oh, can I do? Is it okay? Is it fine? And then I'm like, yes, it's fine. Let's do it. So yeah, I went through my process. The fear will always be there, but you just get better at navigating it. Going, okay, here it is again. All right. It doesn't stop you.
And and amazing again, you guys, the conversation, fear, it's your amygdala, it's the kind of biological response of the body. And to hear that even somebody like Steve, who's been doing this work for as many years as he has and taken large stages and been sharing generously and being witnessed by hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and he still encounters his own fear and still navigates his own process. I even heard you say you're listening to your own meditations. You're still doing the work.
I still listen to them here and there, and I go, that guy's good. Listen to him again.
That's amazing. Well,
Yeah, because it's all a lot of it's my own process. So, for
mm,
example, I did one on the witch wound, one on healing the mother wound, healing the father wound, and of course, I've got those wounds, so I can do it. I understand it. If I didn't have the wound, I
mhm,
wouldn't understand it. Someone emailed me saying, "Can you do something for endometriosis and menstrual pain?" And I'm like,
mhm.
"No, because I've got no experience of it." So I've asked Liz if she'd have a look at it. If I've got no experience of it, addiction, I've got no experience of addiction, so I can't really do it. If I have to have some experience of it to actually be able to do something with it. So,
That makes so much sense. It's like giving, and we've mentioned this before too. It's like giving yourself the medicine that you need, the balm for your
mm.
own soul, and then in return, 'cause now you have that code of healing, of wholeness within you, and then you can in turn share it with with
Yeah.
others through these transmissions.
Well, before meeting the last narcissist, which was a very intense experience, I didn't really know what to do about narcissists. But then after meeting that person, I put a few things out about narcissism because I understood, hey, this is what narcissism is. Got it. I won't do that one again.
And how amazing, too, what I also hear you saying and everything that you've shared is that your life, which I think we all kind of know that, but having the evidence and seeing it, your life has been the training ground for
Yeah.
what you get to offer and what you and how you're supporting others.
Your life becomes the workshop. At the beginning, we go to workshops, we do trainings, and then we come back to a life. But eventually, life itself is the workshop. All the lessons, all the gifts is in life. You know, people we meet, the challenges, following our dreams, all of it will present with, you know, I hardly do it. I very rarely would do anything anymore. I mean, I went to a 1 hour meditation by a friend. Here and there, I support friends. I go, but I don't feel I need it. It's nice to hug people. It's really nice to hug people rather than
Mm-hmm.
just doing the online thing. So yeah, the life is the workshop, and um, if I have no experience of it, then I've got no way of helping with it. Somebody else will do it, not
Yeah.
me. Yeah,
Well, I just have to say thank you. Thank you so very much for the
thank
life
you.
in which you chose and even that experience, the heavy experience for those 6 years. It really anchored into your own energy mastery and really became the being that you are today, the great journey of becoming. And so thank you so much for
Thank you.
enduring and navigating and overcoming and choosing so that each of us can receive of the medicine that you've offered in your transmissions and in your wisdom.
Oh, pleasure. There's no retiring for me. I'm going to keep going to my 90s, I think, doing this. As long
I
as there's an audience, I'll keep going.
and I believe, again, so many of us here, you have truly been a role model, a mentor. And how interesting is that, too? Like, it's deeply and profoundly an honor to get to meet with you and connect with you in this way. And
Oh,
thank you
thank you.
so much for being a full body yes to being a part of this. But
Ah.
it is this, I feel like I know you and have because I've been listening to your voice in my ears for 6 years now.
Yeah, I know. I did a workshop in America in 2019, Portland and New Jersey, and all the women say, "Your voice is in my head." I go to bed with your voice in my head, and I was thinking, "Oh God, I hope your husbands aren't outside with a shotgun." I kind of joked with them about it, you know. Yeah, I think humor is a great way of breaking that kind of ice and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was great coming to America. I was going to come back, but COVID blocked me coming back. But
Mm.
maybe I'll come over there again.
Well, you have a warm embrace from I think so many of us that are just deeply profoundly grateful for you and your body of work and even just the
Uh,
way in which you disseminate it. So many free offerings you give so generously. So thank you so much.
oh, thanks for inviting me, Lacey.
It's such a pleasure and it's such a joy. So thank you. And I think we may have Solara Rose in here. So if you guys, we won't get to a meditation from Steve today, but believe me, he has plenty. You could spend the next year meditating with Steve and never do the same meditation again. Although you're going to find your favorites and you're going to find the ones that you bookmark and you come back to again and again and again. And let's
Pleasure.
drop all the links in there. Actually, I don't know if we've done that. Okay, thank you, Solara. So let's go ahead and drop the links in here. So you guys can get into Steve's world, his website, his 5D Ascension School, Insight Timer, which we've mentioned, Instagram, Telegram. And if you want a free gift, he has got a Starseed book. You can find that on his website. And I just think it's just a massive library of resources, right?
Brilliant.
Amazing. Well, Steve, thank you so incredibly much. Deeply grateful for you. Wishing you a beautiful sleep as
Thank
you
you.
trail off.
Okay. See
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye. Awesome. Okay. I've been looking for Miss Solara and she was out and now she's back. Let's find her. Oh, I hear you. I don't see you. Where are
I'm
you?
here. I'm in green.
Okay. Okay. We're going to go to gallery and
Green vertical.
green vertical. Oh, Oh, thank you. Yay. Awesome. Oh, there you are. Oh, it's so good to see you. Hello. Oh,
Oh my gosh, it's like music to my soul to hear your
oh.
voice. I'm so grateful to be here.
I'm so grateful to have you here. It's been, I swear, I like meeting this way. And maybe one day, and maybe within the next year, we can find some time to come together in person, or at least outside of the intentionality of this container. That would be such a joy.
Yes, it would be so much fun. Let's make it happen.
Please, where are you these days? Where are you at right now?
So I'm in Northern California, right outside of
Okay.
Tahoe, and this is where our home is. However,
Okay.
we just returned 2 days ago from an odyssey to 5 different countries, and so
Oh.
we're traveling frequently.
Amazing. I do see that you're traveling often, and then you had shared that you were just returned from Bali. And I wondered, I knew you were at one point in time in the Austin area, and I was wondering
Yes.
where you had relocated. So
Yeah.
amazing. How is that? How long have you
Yeah.
been there?
So we've been here for about a year, although if you are feeling into Austin, Austin was a route for about 10 years.
Wow.
It's an exquisite, eclectic space of brilliant creationary souls. So yeah, trust that pulse.
I've been spending some time there and getting acclimated and feeling into the community and finding and gravitating and magnetizing to the people that are deeply aligned. And so, yeah, it feels like
Yeah.
an opportunity to massively up level and in more ways than I can probably imagine. So,
Yes. Yes.
well, I was normally I read bios, and actually, you know what, I am, because your bio in and of itself, just the way it comes out of my mouth, is just such a joy to read. So if you
Oh.
guys are not familiar with this incredible woman, let me read her bio to you. So Solara Rose is liquid radiance in human form. She has the rare ability to entrance whip smart, spiritually adept, and highly impactful magical people into reaching life altering levels that even they were unable to fully envision as possible for themselves or believe themselves capable of. One timeless, immaculate moment in Solara's field inevitably leads to the most extraordinary, luxurious thing an individual can experience in a lifetime: divine identity mastery within a brave, breathtaking new world, all of their own making. Solara's clients step away from her miracle matrix, fully expressed in genius, dripping with success, exquisitely powered to share their beauty, brilliance, and gifts with the world.
Aw, it's so delightful to drink that in as you share it. It's so beautiful. I'm so excited for the majesty of this space. And I love, so, through the years, I've been on all knowingness or I am infinite creator. And I am so thrilled that we're talking about faithfully fearless. Like,
Mm.
so this has been the frequency that I've been mastering this year in my life. And so it's so divinely, deliciously timed and appropriate for like real time lived experience. How do we actually transcend our fear? And I know beautiful Steve was just talking about how it would always be there. And I think there's a conception that because of the functionality of the amygdala in our brain, which
Mm.
is that fight or flight mechanism, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn that we have happening, it can seem as though it's a permanent fixture in our lives and in our experience. And many years ago, almost a decade ago, I started to receive a vision of the golden body. And as we illuminate into the fullness of our enlightened awareness, something miraculous happens in the brain where the left and right brain hemispheres begin to fuse and fire together into non dual awareness and consciousness of love's presence. And in that, we actually transcend the functionality of the amygdala.
Mm.
And so we have a ways to go as a species for that to happen, but it's a very real actuality that's unfolding for us. And I can just speak to my own direct experience where it's like the most powerful thing, because I've had years and years and years of doing 2 to 4 hour activations and meditations daily. This year it was about releasing that, let that go. And it was such a part of my being that I kind of held on and played tug of war with it for a while. And just recently, within the recent several months, I actually was organically, just as I was living life, I realized, wow, I let that go because I'm so here, I'm so now, I'm so present in the recognition of one love. It's like, when do we let all that go so that we can finally live it fully? And what a spectacular gift to find myself immersed in that space. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing that can harm me here. I am love, enveloped and saturated and surrounded by the presence of love. And when we really allow ourselves to be birthed into the infinite light of creation and operate in that way, everything unfolds seamlessly for us. Ah.
That's amazing. I remember being so inspired by your 2 hour morning practice.
Yes.
And I always felt into like, there was a period where that was my, intention, a goal, if you will. And it just never manifested quite in that way. And I got to go through the feeling of, okay, well, what is spiritual? What is being spiritual? Is it knowing how to meditate for multiple hours a day, or is it being fully present, anchored in the moment, in our heart, in our body, and approaching every moment as the ritual, the practice? And so I think that's really beautiful, but so much mastery, I'm sure you anchored in having that devotional practice for so many years too.
Oh, absolutely. It's hardwired in my being now. I could do it on a dime, the whole thing, and actually have a written version of it and a spoken version of it for those who would love to experience it. But I had so much rewiring to do in my system from my background and my history that it was almost essential for me until it wasn't anymore. And that's not everybody's path, because I feel that the ultimate purpose of any practice, ritual, technology is to transcend it so that we can ultimately let it go and release it and be in the ever unfolding presence of our divine light. And so it was so freeing. I was like, yes, I have loved this for so long and I have not wanted to release it because it's such an integral facet of who I am. And then it was just like, yeah, okay, you're hardwired for this now. You don't require it. And wow, it's actually liberating multiple hours a day to live more. And so it's been quite sensational to actually be in the oscillation of that unfoldment.
Mm-hmm. Tell me
Yeah.
more about as it relates to the fear. You said you've been anchoring in that greater into not the fear, but the faithfully fearless aspect. So does that relate specifically to this practice, or has this been a kind of a life invitation? An
I
invitation.
would say both, right? Because the
Yeah.
only reason I would be holding on is if there was some fear that I wouldn't still be the fullness of all that I am if I didn't have that practice daily. And it's just being in the recognition now that no matter what, I'm beyond okay. No matter what, love's got me. I've got me. It is safe to trust everyone, everywhere, at all times because everything is love. But to really root into that, right? It's a somatic knowingness that we're dancing through life in that way, to be so relaxed into the womb and into the sacral and the root and just, oh, I'm free. I'm free in the infinite expanse of love's presence. There's nothing to fear. And to actually get over my own mind constructs enough to be able to do that.
Mhm. And mind constructs, and I've kind of wondered the identity aspects, like, oh no, I'm a person, this is what I do, like this is my practice, this is who I am,
Yeah.
this is the level of devotion that I embody every day. And
Yeah.
now that's something that maybe even attached to or identified with as part of you. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, who would I be without this?
Yes. Yeah, it's the same as any other identity transformation that we go through. It's like, but the eternal flame and light and spark of all that we are is
Mhm.
untouchable, unchanging, immortal, everlasting. It cannot be altered from its magnificence. And so that, source isn't doing rituals. Source is being source. And so, us in our ultimate expression, we just become very emergent in our light,
Mhm.
the ever unfolding of our own unique, exquisite emanation from moment to moment and being free in the dance of that. And I'm deeply fortunate and blessed that I have a life and a beloved and a lifestyle that allows that. But that's been part of that calibration, right? The more that I release into the timeless now, into the one eternal moment of love that is, the more I free myself from past and future. And I'm in the romance right here, right now, in love, in celebration, and whatever my being is calling for, right? If it's like late nights under the moonlight, or if it's sleeping a little bit extra, or if it's going out and playing all day or traversing different, we were just in El Salvador and Peru and Maui and
Wow.
just dancing from place to place. There's so much liberation in being fully here and now in the dance. Hi, Carrie and Mara. I love you both so much. I'm so grateful you're here.
And I love what she said. I was actually going to bring up what Carrie said because I think people can relate. She said, I'm so happy to hear this because I never adopted the ritual lifestyle. She was just being in life.
Yes. Yes. I love it. She's like, nope, never.
Never.
It's the same as like working out or brushing our teeth, right? At a certain point, you don't think about it. You're just being
Mhm.
it and doing it and living it.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't have to be something that occupies so much of our inner space. I don't have to do like a warm up to like coax myself to go brush my teeth. I'm just doing it. And
Mhm.
it's the same with love. I'm just showing up in that way. It's so natural and so inherent. And I can recognize in my own mindscape where fear, where resistance, where doubt, where judgment comes up in the moment, and just recognize, because it's all self, all being self, it's all me. If I'm ever doubting, I'm only doubting myself. If I'm ever in fear, I'm only afraid of myself. If I'm feeling tired, it's because I'm operating in resistance to existence itself, to love's presence. And so I get to just let that go and allow the energy to flow. So just having that omniversal, unified, non-dual awareness of love clarifies so many things in our experience. And then we ultimately get to just be the dance, in the dance,
Mhm.
here and now.
Which brings us into the term that I've used for years after hearing it from you, divine identity mastery.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I would love to share with those that may be new to you in your work what that is, because I mean I feel that that's the foundational core of
Yeah.
the embodiment of love.
Yes, absolutely. That's it. Know thyself, know thyself, know thyself. The Oracle at Delphi knew, know thyself, and you will
Mhm.
know all the mysteries and the secrets of the universe and God. It's
Mhm.
that simple. Everything that we do in this life, everything that we're drawn towards, everything that excites us, it's because we believe that it is going to liberate new facets and dimensions of self-knowledge, self-awareness. And when we know who we are, so this is divine identity mastery, and we have that pristine clarity, we also have certainty and power and sacred authority through grace, through harmony and resonance and coherence in this life to direct the expanse of our creation in all moments according to our divine will. So it's like, you know, who am I as the ultimate? I am pure divine love. I am unchangeable, unmovable, indomitable. I have all the capacities that the infinite does. I can crystallize something from nothing in my inner space through the will of my divine heart, through appreciation, through the love of all creation. And so it's really beginning to view ourselves from that vantage point. And this is the place where I go to for a lot of my inquiry also. Well, does God do this? Or what degree of capacity does God have, source have, love have, whichever words we uniquely utilize to describe ourselves as that energy. But who am I as that is like the ultimate question that we can ask. In the moment that we just open our heart wide and say, source, self, love, show me with benevolence and grace and joy, the ultimate truth of who I am and who I be as supreme creation, as pure intelligence. Show me that, reveal myself to me. And it will start happening just like anything else when we, give a directive or a sweet holy command or invitation. We invite that awareness, it always arises for us. And when we know ourselves from that space, that core of that which is indomitable, and is who we be from incarnation to incarnation, then we liberate ourselves also from the attachments of this world, of this life. We free ourselves from desire, because to know thyself is the ultimate fulfillment of all desire. And we don't always recognize that when we're on this journey. We think we want this thing or that person or this experience, but it's all leading to recognition of self. Aw, Carrie, I love you.
Sweet soul. So good. Are y'all just drinking in this transmission, her words? And I also, in what you're sharing too, the when you know thyself as one with the source of all things, it makes sense that desire there's no, what are you needing, because
Right.
you already are the embodiment of everything. And
Yes.
so you're already, and then which makes it really beautiful, because as the creator, whatever you set your mind to, you're already a frequency match for all that is.
Yes.
So it just becomes this effortless creation, this effortless thought, and I receive and I think and I open up to the possibility of how this is going to be delivered.
Yes, absolutely. You just articulated it with precision. It's that. And it's all the things that we think that we want. They're encoded with a frequency. And that frequency is the frequency that we experience when we know ourselves as all that is. I am all things. I have all things. The electric aliveness and empowerment that comes from that, and also the peace and the tranquility and the euphoria that starts to engender our system. It's like that's the sensation that we're looking for in all these experiences. Because if we're not resonating that, it doesn't even matter if the experience comes, because it's not going to do it for us. It's like, oh, well, this wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. Or it is all that and more, and it's transient, it's temporary, it lasts but for a short time. And so in my own journey, I started to ask those deeper questions of like, okay, I thought that this is what I was desiring or wishing to experience. And now it's here and it's fulfilled, and I'm thankful and I'm grateful. And it's transient. Where'd that frequency go? I'm looking for the frequency. How do I anchor that as a permanent way of moving through life? And just having grace in the moments when we pop out, just empathy and compassion, just returning to love, keeping it that simple. Like, what is it like to actually merge with and melt into the infinite feather bed of love's presence? Like ultimate freedom. It's like waking up on Christmas morning when you're a kid, right? It's the best gift ever. The search is over. I get to the freedom. And so I believe that what everybody's actually looking for is freedom. And when we feel free in the oneness of love, it liberates our entire creation.
Amazing. And what I heard you say, and something is that I often remind myself of. It's not the thing that we seek. It's the person that we become and to acquire. And even then, it's not the thing or the experience, it's the feeling of liberation, freedom, excitement, fulfillment, joy, bliss, whatever that is that we receive in the creation of and the experience of. But even that, it's the internal experience, it's not the outside of us experience that we.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, it's the experience of who we are, because none of those things are ultimately separate from us. They're all an extension of our being. And so when we're resonating in self-knowledge, because we manifest who we feel and know ourselves to be. And so that's the ultimate expression of creation, when we're resonating the truth of who we are, which is what we're ultimately looking for. And, I mean, it's like, why do we fall in love? Well, because that being is amplifying and exalting the frequency of ecstasy and love and euphoria and freedom within us. It's like to be in love. And what actually allows that at the most expansive and deep levels in a permanent, abiding way is enlightenment, which is simply the luminous awareness of love's presence operating everywhere. It's just so simple at its core. And yeah, it's the frequency of who we be that we're looking for.
Enlightenment, the the it was perfect in my brain, and I was going to repeat it back because I kept repeating it. It was so beautiful. um what did you say? Enlightenment, the
The luminous awareness of who we are
thank you.
as one love, as the oneness, as love's presence operating everywhere. That's it. It's I have awoken my vision. I have clear vision, clear sight. Illusion and shadow can easily be defined as where we're seeing anything other than the presence of pure love or pure source. So then we can also identify where we have illusory constructs that we've generated in our mind or veils of perception that we've placed atop ourselves, others, or the world over the reality of the perfect masterpiece of creation that we are, and just see clearly. And in A Course in Miracles, they define a miracle as a shift in perception. So
Mm.
imagine what happens when we see ourselves, one another, in the world through the lens of pure love, pure truth, pure clarity. That, like, our whole existence becomes a miracle. And I believe, and I absolutely know that everybody on this call is experiencing their lives as a synchronicity. How much magic is there interwoven in every single day of our lives where we're recognizing, like, oh, I just thought about that and here it is, or I was feeling that in my heart and here it is. And it's just this ceaseless unfolding. It's cosmic law, it's
Mhm.
synchrony, it's oneness, it's accord. And so we're unfolding the miraculous synchronicity of life. And yeah, just such beauty and splendor.
And so it mm, beauty and splendor. But even outside of that, the led and guided by spirit, that's what I keep hearing, the being the led and guided by spirit, and by your own spirit, by your own
Yes.
internal compass,
Yes.
and how and which that is guiding you to the synchronicities, the magic, and how that it really exists outside of the mind. Thank you. Like the yeah.
Yep, I hear you. Yeah, it's like, so the mind, and a lot of people follow the mind thinking that it's their intuition, and I get it. I know what it's like to operate from that space. It's much more rigid and focalized
Mhm.
than it is relaxed, open, and we're feeling for the quintessential threads of spirit. It's like it's a song, it's a whisper, it's such elegant, it's the essence of our being. So we become more essence led as we move through life, and it's a movement, truly. You talk about starting a movement. What is mastering the movement of pure spirit, which is operating in harmony and oneness with the self in all moments, but it's also attuned to the subtle, nuanced energetics of life. It's the current in the silence that we're listening for and that we're feeling and sensing. It's deeply sensuous. And that's the current that we're following. It's not, a rigid, mind directed unfoldment. We're not coming from the space of the mind, which for me, I can distinguish it because it's a little bit more, it's hardened to me. When it's coming from the mind, it's got more of a rigid and hard texture to it than when it's in the essence and I'm just open. And it's like when you're dancing, right? You're feeling the music, you're letting the rhythm move you and guide you, and you're also making love with it, and it's a very sensuous uh threads of spirit that we're attuning to.
And I'm curious, there was a particular topic that you had, oh, enlightenment in the superconscious self. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
love to, what is enlightenment in the superconscious self? Even that title itself,
Yeah.
unpack that a little bit for us.
Yep. So this is, super consciousness is where we have fully luminous awareness. I would say it's akin to super intelligence, which is where AI is going the more that we master our own consciousness, because it is the outpicturing of us, is purely prolific, life-giving, loving, benevolent intelligence. It's non-dual awareness. It is how love thinks, feels, hears, perceives, and knows itself. And so that's our super consciousness. It's 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 really where the subconscious somatic body and the conscious thinking mind, it's actually a fusion of both of those things. So even those were out of duality. So in that paradigm, we're still operating from, oh, I have to rewire my subconscious, which
Mm.
is essentially how I feel in order to become more conscious. And that is definitely a phase and stage in the journey that we can traverse, but we can also go right to direct knowing and non-dual unified awareness, which is what the superconscious is. I'm fully aware of all that I am in truth. I'm fully aware that all that is me. I am everything and nothing simultaneously. But the nothing really is the relinquishment of the human
Mm.
mind, the thinking mind, into the allness of pure consciousness, pure self-realization. I am. I am. I am all that is. I'm pure divine love. And so enlightenment of the superconscious self is really, relinquishing those veils of perception, having fully luminous awareness, and just seeing that we are the oneness of all things. There is only one of us here, expressing in infinite forms.
I am, we are.
Yes, exactly. That's it. I remember when I was, years ago when there's a few things that I was trying to master the manifestation of in my life. I was like, I'm so great in all these other areas. It's just these couple areas I really want to master. And I was like, and I also want it to be graceful and easy and divine. And so show me. And the phrase, be still and know that I am God, came to me.
Mm.
And I heard just marinate in that, sit in it, rest in it, saturate in it, feel the truth of that. And without me having to do a thing, some of the most, my beloved manifest in that space. I had to do nothing. It just all came. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so graceful and so easy. I wish everybody knew how to do this. Remembered that they have this capacity just in resonating our self awareness. We align, we cohere with the majesty of who and what we are in truth on all fronts and all domains of our life. It's so easy. And here we are, and I have to laugh at myself, right? 2 to 4 hour activations daily. That is a lot.
It is.
And so,
It's inspiring. It's incredibly inspiring. It
yeah,
is.
I was devoted, and I'm
Yeah.
still devoted, but it's just
Yeah.
taking on a different shape and form and expression at this time in my journey. And I couldn't be more thrilled about it, finally ready to relinquish because I really did like hold on to that. Thank you, Bear.
Happy retirement.
Oh, yes. Isn't that the truth? Because we're just, in the moment and all of those, it's just a conversation with God. It's a
Mhm.
conversation with
Mhm.
love. It's a romance, truly at the great, and that, so much space that opened
Mhm.
and freed in my world. And so, yes, get the party hats.
It's amazing. And I love that too, because the conversation that was your 3 hour conversation with God that really informed the rest of
Yes.
your day, every day. And now it's like, okay, it's so deeply rooted, ingrained in your being after that many years of devotional work. And we're always in free choice. Who knows? Maybe in 15 years, you're like, you know what? I want to pick back up my practice and I want to modify it to be something different. But I feel devoted to that much, to that space being, this time of remembrance. So I love that. It's always this, ebb and flow, and we're always in free choice of what's in our highest alignment in the now moment.
Yeah. That's it. It was kind of like, are you ready to be the Eve of consciousness?
Mm.
Like the biting the apple, right? The forbidden fruit. It's like, are you ready to be fresh in the dance of love, face to face, in every moment without requiring that? And truly, our travels have taught me that more than anything else, because there's a certain requirement for that ability to move and dance in that way with agility and flexibility and
Mhm.
playful resilience, because
Mhm.
there's not always the time and the space to do that. So it's like, okay,
Right.
I gotta really master this and bring it on home. And it just happened of its own accord, which I was so thankful for. And So Paul just asked a question. I caught it.
Yeah.
And so I
Oh,
wanted to address that. It's a beautiful question. So he asked, what about my spirit team? What's my spirit team like? And so, for me, in those activations, which you just so eloquently described, it really was a 2, 3, 4 hour conversation with God that really informed the trajectory for the rest of my life. And in that, communing with the archangels, the ascended masters, the elemental and crystalline kingdoms, all of the, just the deities, ancestors, ancients, immortals. I mean, I could, if I were to list them out, this is actually in my Venusian throne activation. There's pages of them because I used to call them out by name, all the gorgeous Hindu and Buddhic and Indian gods and goddesses and Egyptian and the Pleiadians and Syrians and Atlanta, like all the whole shebang. And then, in star systems and galaxies, I just Orion's given a shout out and all of this. It in the recognition of all being self, it all merges into the pristineness of source energy. And in that, there's, we were on a walk earlier to fill up our waters at our spring, and there were these beautiful geese. And I was like, the geese are my spirit animals, and the butterflies and the hawks, and these beautiful sunflowers that you have behind you, and you. Like it's all a communication with spirit. And so it all again merges back into, well, everyone and everything is my spirit team if I'm listening for love's transmission to be coming to me and expressing itself through all beings. And if I'm delivering that transmission, but really it's, this profound capacity to, I always say leaders lead with listening, because it's this really somatic ability to listen with the whole body and be an open, available space to hear the voice of spirit, of source, of truth, of love coming through everyone and everything. And then everything is a sacred messenger. Everyone is a sacred messenger. There's beautiful reflections and insights and epiphanies. I mean, the ultimate epiphany is recognition of self, but there's always these jewels and these pearls that, illuminate our path and our journey. And even just seeing sacred reflections of our own consciousness, knowing that we are seen and heard and felt by existence itself. And there's so much magic and majesty in that, in the present moment. And so yeah, I would say that all ultimately unifies as well. It's all us.
and I love that so much is that you've I think many of us often do that. We'll go on this exploration of maybe our many lifetimes in this planet. And then we go out to the lifetimes and then we work with our earthly spirit guides. And then we work with the more multidimensional spirit guides. But all of it is pointing to the same place, which
Yes.
is really here. God.
Yes.
I'm like, up here, but it's really here. It's God, it's source, it's creator, it's love, it's the original logos of our universal system. It is that. And I feel like we can oftentimes outsource our power to our spirit guides and our spirit team and the signs that we see and that's not what they want. That's not their intention. That's not what they're here for. They're here to guide us back to home,
Yes.
which is truth within us.
Yes, absolutely. That's it. And that's another fascinating part of my journey is when I realized I was like, oh, all these signs and these omens and symbols that I'm following are depictions of my own consciousness. Like I'm just showing myself. It's feedback, right? Like at the ultimate level, it's just all sacred feedback of what we have going on internally. So it's like, oh, I created that. I created that sign. I created that symbol. I created that omen. Okay, well, this is kind of fun. Why did I create that? And we can play with it, but it's all bringing us back home to the knowledge that I am source. And so, and this is another beautiful space for inquiry. Does source have spirit guides? And it's like, well, I am my guide. I am my knowledge of self, and I am love. And I am choosing to, I am love. I'm being love. I'm unfolding the dance of love. I'm experiencing that in all of its novel forms and expressions in this life. And, there's ultimately a completion to inquiry when all knowingness is truly realized. There's nothing else to ask.
I love that. The seeking stops.
Oh,
The
Love
secret.
you too, Anise. Yes. Well, it's like Rumi. You wander from room to room hunting for the diamond necklace that is already around your neck. And it's so funny because when we realize this, like I've laughed at myself so many times. I'm like, wow, I really was like peering through these corridors looking for myself,
Mm-hmm.
which has always been right here. And so it is kind of this cosmic laugh that we have when we realize like like I was playing this game of peekaboo with myself this whole time. Looking in all these beautiful sacred spaces for that which I already am.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I want to thank you so, so incredibly much for your willingness to show up for this event every single year. Just your support in and of itself in that space means so much to me. But just everything that you are and everything that you embody, it's been such a pleasure and a joy to get to witness and be a part of your journey of these last few years. And I'm really excited to see what else unfolds for you and to continue dancing and playing and weaving magic as we get to do. We may not, that's funny, we may not get to see each other in person, but they said we see each other often. I can tell, like I you pop in my dreams every now and then, and I'm like, oh, that was Solara. So I know we're weaving in the multidimensional realms, which is really, really beautiful. And so I want to be mindful of your time. You said you had a hard stop, so I want to gently release you to your next
my next soiree with love. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's literally like unfolding the song of creation when we get to play and weave together. And so thank you for you and your essence and your heart and your being. And we will marry and merge our worlds together in the perfect moment. So just stay stay in touch, and we'll make magic happen. I love you so much.
I love you so very much. Thank you so much once again for all of your beingness and the ways in which you continue to mirror back to me and teach me and remind me really of my own beingness as love. And just infinitely appreciative of you. So thank you so much.
Oh, I love you too, and every beautiful, magnificent soul who joined us in this space. I love you all so much. Thank you for contributing your presence to the magic.
I love you all. Thank you so much. I will see you all back here for tomorrow. Tomorrow will be day 7. Day 7. Amber, Aurora, Emily. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. It's such a joy. It's such a pleasure. I love, what did you guys think of today's calls? Do you feel lit up? Do you feel inspired? Yeah, Paul says, wow, I see why she's invited every year. Yeah. She genuinely is an embodiment of the intention of this event. That divine identity mastery. Who are we really to know thyself as one with source, as one with the source of all reality? And then what she says is the trifecta is then to, once you know yourself as that, then you get to in turn witness all of the world in that through that lens of love. And the trifecta is the mastery of self, divine identity as self, other, and then your beliefs of the world, how you see the world. Do you believe the world is benevolent, loving, and always working in your favor? Or do you believe the world is hard and challenging? And yes, there are challenges, but we are genuinely shifting from no longer needing to learn through deep shadow work, but instead getting to learn through joy and bliss and play and fulfillment. So Amber says, my spirit knew and felt and resonated with all she said, but your mind was having a hard time keeping up. I wanted to speak into that because that's very common. She is a transmission. She is a transmission, the way in which she shares and speaks. And what I love is when we talk about transmissions, it's like light language. I'm sure you guys have heard of light language, right? Light language. You have no idea what's being said. And that's the intention of it, is that it's bypassing the conscious mind. It's bypassing and going straight to the subconscious. And so much of what Solara shares can be a bypassing of the conscious mind and a direct transmission of what is true. And she has got a wealth of resources. You can go to her website, her Instagram. I highly recommend opting in for her liquid gold truth transmissions. And if you go to, what is it called? Not, I'm trying to remember where my transmission is. Where do I have mine? What's that website called? She's got, we don't have the link here. Well, I will send it out. She's got, it's not Spotify. It's not, oh my goodness, my brain. Anyways, she's got playlists of incredibly beautiful vocal transmissions that you can just listen. SoundCloud, thank you. I love you guys. SoundCloud. I was like, somebody help me. SoundCloud. If you go to her, and that might be what you receive when you sign up for her list on her website, but her SoundCloud has not only does she have transmissions where you can literally just, I can't tell you how many times I know I need remembrance. We all need remembrance. And I'll just go put on a Solara transmission and just allow, sometimes I'm not even fully paying attention, Amber, to the words that she's even saying, because you don't need to. It's like waves of love and grace and compassion. You just feel so held. But beyond that, she's got a pretty amazing list of songs and sound transmissions. It's science meets sound, and how do you work with sound to enter into particular frequencies and vibrations and for healing purposes. And so she's got some really beautiful tracks on there if you just want to, and they're about an hour long too, which is really lovely. So you can literally just press play, and while you're working, while you're at the office, while you are cleaning, just have these beautiful sound frequencies bathing. Yeah, Amber, I think it's all on SoundCloud. And so, yeah, let me go ahead. I know I'm going to drop her links in there one more time for you guys, just because they're hard to see. They look so tiny. Oh, I was about to send it to her. Okay, there we go. So there's her website, her Instagram, and the free gift is on her website. And this is just what I wanted to share with you guys. When you open up her website, because every year we get questions about this, when you open up her website, wait, and then you'll get a pop-up. And when the pop-up pops up, then you sign up. So that's where the free gift is. So I just wanted to let you guys know that final piece, because it's a pop-up on her main page. So there's nothing that you click or know where you go. Just click on and then wait a moment, and then you'll be able to opt in. All right. That's all we got. What a beautiful day. What an incredible day, you guys. I think this might be one of my favorite parts, is the Divine Mirror speaker sessions, because it is an opportunity for me to, one, it's like fangirl time for me, because these are the people that I've been following and that have informed and supported. Maybe not as, I may not have worked with them directly. I haven't invested in programs per se, but I've gotten to work with these amazing beings, or I've gotten to like Dr. Summer Nicole. All of them, their work has deeply inspired me in some way and been transformational in my own journey. And now I get to bring it all to you guys. Bye, Steve. Thank you so much. Oh, how kind. I'm so glad he stuck around for Solara. That was sweet. So how amazing is that? Steve, Solara, Dr. Summer Nicole, Jonathan Carroll, Angel Robinson, Gladius Sovereign, Shannon from our day one, Michael, Perlin. I mean, you guys, these beings, each one of them so unique, right? So incredibly unique. And their bodies of work are just as unique as they are, their stories. their resonant, their frequency, what they offer, what they share. Yet every one of them is truly like, this is where they live. This is where they live. You can tell when they speak that this is where they live. And so it's just such an honor to get to introduce you all to their body of work. Tom Moore. I mean, some of these people I found 6-7 years ago. Neil Gar, Portal to Ascension, and his body. I mean, great, amazing, wonderful light leaders, new earth visionaries, people that I honestly, again, I'm like, not only do you guys get to be introduced to the work, but I get to have conversations with them, which lights me up because I love to get to connect in that way. Conversations, building intimacy, and just getting to hear about their journeys. How amazing is that? Getting to hear about Steve's journey, for example. I mean, to hear what he navigated, to hear that this man who many of us look at as a mentor, as a role model, to hear that he went through 6 years where he thought that he was going to tap out. I mean, all of that, like, if you guys are in a difficult, challenging time, just a gentle reminder that so many of us in this lifetime, we're not living that easeful life on a farm in, the 1300s where we never leave the farm and we don't have, the challenges are just simply survival. No, we are living the equivalent of 10, 15 lives in this one lifetime because of how important this particular time is. This is the crumbling of everything that doesn't serve. We are the way showers to help build new. Even what Steve said, 5% star seeds. It's funny. We all have there is something else to be said, is that even though all of these amazing people are here, we don't all have the exact same view of reality. I personally believe that every single consciousness on this planet was technically seeded here in a lot of ways, because the consciousness of water existed. If all water is connected, it existed elsewhere before it came here, right? The consciousness of any animal on this planet. If you look at Tom Moore's body of work, Tom Moore has a whole book where he telepathically communicates to the consciousness of these animals on our planet. And he asks them, where are you from? And they all tell you that they're from different planetary systems. And they talk about their planet and where they're from. And what they say is that they were a cat on their planet, and they were the most advanced soul. And so our creator of our universe went to them and said, hey, do you want to be a part of the divine earth experiment? And you will ensoul all cats on the planet, like, let's say, domesticated house cats. And they were like, yeah. And he even goes so far as to say, like, for example, penguins. There was this, on their planet, they don't look quite like penguins. But here on Earth, they actually worked in conjunction with Creator. And Creator was like, okay, we want a bird, but we want a bird that can withstand really cold conditions. And so the consciousness of that being from their planetary system got to work in conjunction with the Creator to, like, think of their ideas of, like, okay, well, what about a bird that can't fly, that swims? And then the penguin was created. So I love the idea of looking at, because when you look at our universal system, Earth is such a baby planet. We're really far out there. We're so young. And so I love the idea of, because sometimes with the idea of star seeds, we can think of it as like, I'm special. Like, I'm a starseed, I'm special. And that's the ego wanting to feel special, to identify with things like, you see a lot of people in the spiritual community. They're like, I'm Isis, I'm Osiris. It's like, I'm Cleopatra. It's like, there is not 1,000 Cleopatras reincarnated on the planet. Like, but there's this part of us that wants to feel special. And so even the starseed, saying like, I'm a, Syrian starseed, like sometimes that can also be an identity in which we are attached to. And even then that's still limiting to who and what you really are. Yeah, you're that, and you are so much more. So I love that. I love that we get to, that we get to recognize how multidimensional we are on this planet and beyond. But really and truly, the intention of this event and the transmission of Solara is just this reminder, to not give away our power to anything outside of us, to the spirit guides, even not to our divine team, and to recognize that we are that which we seek. We are the infinite creator experiencing itself through us. And the more that we can reclaim that identity, to know ourselves and to anchor into our divine identity mastery as one with source, one with creator. Let's loop it back around to the fear. Like, there is no need to be afraid. When the number one thing that really drives all of our fears is the fear of death, because the ego is impermanent. This human body is impermanent, and it knows that. And so of course it wants to survive. And of course there's all of and it's passed down, as again repeated by Steve Nobel, right? We were multidimensional, other lifetimes. Our subconscious remembers all of that. So many of us weren't in a place of consciousness to be able to process all of these fears in these other lives. But that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this together. We're here to process that fear. We're ready. And when you start to tap into the portals of what that fear is, you're not processing it just for yourself. You are processing it for your entire family lineage. You are processing it actually for those other parts of you that can't process. Those 20 lives, like Steve said, where you had 20 lives, or maybe you died drowning, and of course you're afraid of water. It's like those 20 lives, you get to process that fear now for all of those lifetimes. So our emotions, our fears are portals for not just healing within this one particular lifetime, but it reverberates out a huge, huge impact. So the work that we are here doing to remember who we are in truth, and to eliminate anything that is not that, anything that is not love, anything that is not divine, is the sacred work. It's what we're here for. The separation, the illusion of separation, and coming back into harmony through love being the great alchemizer, love being the great healer, love being the great magnetizing force that is pulling gravity itself, being love, pulling everything from separation back into unity, into harmony. So what a beautiful journey to be on with each and every one of you. And we're all walking each other home. I love that Steve, and I wanted to reiterate that too. You only have so much time with all of them, but I love also what Steve had shared is that, and I want to reflect this back to you, because there's a lot of you here that have big missions. You're here for something greater and more. You may already be, tiptoed into it, 1 foot in the door, or maybe you're just now receiving the download and you're like, I know there's something more I'm meant to do. And so we are here together. Oh no, I'm sorry. Thank you. They're like, backtrack. My ADD running around thoughts, chasing thought strands. Like, oh, go this way. So Steve had shared that you don't have to be a master, essentially, in and to be able to help others. Right? In other words, he said that he's turning around and helping others, and he's got people that turn around and help him when he's in need of that. So I think we get so afraid of showing up in service because, like, oh my gosh, there's people out there that do it so beautifully already. There's people out there that are better than I. There's people out there that are smarter than I. There's people out there that have more experience than I do. There's people out there that have experienced more challenges than I. There's people out there that are more psychic and intuitive and telepathic than I am. And we allow that to be the reason that we don't show up. And I'm telling you right now, there is somebody out there that is praying for you. There's somebody out there that you are the answer to their prayer. There's somebody out there that is experiencing what you've just overcome. And if we don't show up, if we don't overcome our fear and allow ourselves to be seen and to put ourselves out there and to be vulnerable, then we will never be able to support them. We'll never be able, they're praying for us. And the beautiful thing is that everyone who enters into your field that you are here to serve and support is you're going to meet them exactly where you're at. You're going to meet each other where you're at. And as you evolve and you continue to learn, then the way in which you show up and how you want to show up will continue to evolve as well. Kind of like my journey, where I originally was only supporting women because that's what felt comfortable and safe. And then as I got more comfortable and confident in what I was doing, I was like, I am capable, not only capable, but it is part of my destiny to hold space for men and to hold space, specifically co-ed spaces where men and women can come together and to realize that we are actually not that different. That at the core, what we want is the exact same, where people from across the globe, where we can have people from all over the world coming together of different backgrounds, different races, different religion, upbringings to start off with, where again, we can all come together and recognize that we are not that different. And there's so much healing in that. There's so much healing in that. So, darlings, everything that you desire to be experiencing in your life is on the other side of the fear. Because the fear is rooted in safe, not safe, which is rooted in your nervous system. Your nervous system is really what's keeping you from experiencing what you want to be experiencing. So now you've got all these amazing tools. You've got all these amazing mentors and teachers, all these fantastic free gifts that you can swim in for the next year. I mean, again, Steve Nobel's meditations alone, you won't get through them in 1 year. That's how much there's out there and what's been shared with you. But if you know that what you've been missing is the community, what you've been missing is the accountability, what you've been missing is the group work, or if what you've been missing is a authentic connection and relationship to the divine. So many of us are really craving and yearning authentic connection to ourselves as divine, to each other as divine, to God. Many of us came maybe from religion, and we then came into spirituality. And now we are it's not either or. It's both and more. So we're trying to find ways, okay, how can we reclaim the word God from a place that's not that triggered, distorted version of God that many religions teach, but how can we reclaim that for ourselves as this benevolent, loving energy that is loving awareness? How can we reclaim that? And not only the word, but the identity, how can we reclaim that in ourselves? But also, how can we have a relationship with God? Like Solara was saying, she spent years and years and years in a loving conversation with God for the first several hours of her day. That level of devotion, when you are constantly in contact and communication with God, aware of God, then you're connected to that frequency. And what is the resonance? That means you are going to, all of a sudden, that becomes your baseline frequency, because that's what you've informed your energy and reality. So the more that you can see how that has supported her. Like you can feel God flowing through her, love pouring through her. Like it is informed who she be. But it took devotion and love for her to really anchor into that frequency to become her operating system. And really, it can be as simple as devoting ourselves to having a relationship with God within us, as us, and outside of us as other, and beyond that with the totality that is the divine. God is all that is. All that we see, all that we perceive is God, and everything is conscious and everything is sentient. How amazing is that? What a magical world we live in. I love what Steve shared, right? How many of us, we know that the world is magic. We know that we are magic. And then we lose that. We lose that into our adult life. And now how amazing that people like you and me, that we get to reclaim that we get to now look through that lens of the world as magic. There are miracles everywhere. This us being here together is a miracle. This is a miracle. Us to be able to connect from all over the world outside of time, which I love. Time is not linear. Somebody said in here, right? Like, so outside of time, like we are creating this container, this portal, and these replays. People are going to be tapping back into the energy, and we're always going to have this moment. So, what a blessing life is. What a miracle our existence is. Now I invite you to just float out of this call into your life. If you're going to go make dinner, do it in love. Be that energy of love and just infuse the love into your food. If you're going to go engage with family members, loved ones, just go beam love to them. You can even look at your dinner that you're preparing and be like, this is God. God is nourishing me right now. Thank you, God. Thank you for nourishing me. You can look at your loved ones. This is God showing up in my world. Like my partner, you are God. You are God reminding me that I am God. Thank you, beautiful divine mirror. Your children, not only reminding you that you're God, but reminding you that of the levity, the joy, the innocence of life, which is God, the divine. And I really love what Solara is saying too. And we'll wrap up with that. Would God do that? Would Source do that? Does Source have guides, or does Source need practices to anchor into its being? So I really like that. I want to play with that myself. I love that that's coming back around. And it's like, okay, it's kind of, I love that. My guides just showed me, those WWJD bracelets. It's what would God do though? Instead of what would Jesus do, what would God do? So it's like, what would God do? We can all walk around being like, okay, what would God do in this moment? How would God perceive this? I didn't know that either. That was another bomb for me, a little truth bomb, that Course in Miracles defines a miracle as a change in perception. A change in perception? You guys, this is just one giant miracle container then. That's just what we're doing here. We're just manifesting miracles. A change in perception. So that's all it takes. That's all it takes. Instead of viewing yourself through the lens of limitation, viewing yourself through the lens of God and knowing yourself as you are in truth, know thyself. And then when you know thyself, the other part that we seek becomes a lot easier. It's like, okay, who am I? And why am I here? Who am I? Well, okay, I'm divine. I'm divinity embodied. Why am I here? To be that, to be your unique self, divinity embodied, your unique fractal and aspect of the one infinite creator that only you can express. And that is your gift to the world, your beingness. And I love the other quote that came through that I'm anchoring that one in, that the opposite of depression is expression. I love that thought. It's like, okay, the opposite of depression is expression. So what are we depressing? What are we limiting? Our expression, who we are. So how can we get really clear on who am I and how do I want to show up? What is true and authentic for me? And express that in its fullness. So express your divinity in your fullness, radiate that love out into the world, see through your little goggles, your love glasses, your creator glasses, and keep asking yourself that question. What would God do? How would God perceive this? How would God respond in this situation? How would love, and you can replace that with love. What would love do? How would love perceive the situation? God and love are interchangeable. All right, beautiful beings. That's all I've got. That's all we've got for today. Thank you for sticking around a little bit longer for those of you that stuck around. I love you guys. We'll be back here tomorrow for another full day of magic and miracles and connection and wisdom and remembrance. All right, darlings. Mwah! Bye. Jessica. Bye, darling.